So, yes, wonderful to be here today and wonderful that we can meet from all parts of the world with technology. And I think such a crucial topic to talk about how to develop people and why it's important to develop people and how to use coaching in order to do that. But I think the question that comes up most frequently around this topic of people development, Reinhard, is a lot of managers say, but that's HR's job. Why do I need to be involved in staff or people development? So what are your thoughts on that, just to start us off?
Jane, and that's the typical question. Hey, I'm not HR, I'm in IT, I do project management, I do whatever in IT or sales. That really is HR or training or some external service provider that trains a skill. And not just in our environment, but actually globally and in all different industries. So why you? And I think there's obviously a role that HR does play. So we're not saying that HR doesn't play a role. Of course they do, so because HR has an overall view of the skills and talents that the company needs and needs to acquire to do what the company needs to do, so the overall responsibility is still HR and team, the development or staff development, whatever you call the function in your company. But on ground level, we need to engage the manager, so because you can send somebody on a course, but unless they practice what they were on a course for, why did you send them on a course? And so there's no better person than the line manager or the manager or the team manager or whatever the department or exco manager it is to help somebody to implement the skills, but also to identify the skills and measure them, and I think in the past we sort of did like, oops, sorry, I'm knocking my keyboard around, and maybe we'll leave that question about how to for a little bit later. But so that's in short. Why not HR? I think because HR's function is overall, our function is specific.
So if we're closely working with the people who are in our teams, and we know that there are certain skills that need to be developed for the good of the organization and for our teams to function effectively, why take an approach of focusing on what is in the interests of the employee to develop, as opposed to, I know what their role is, we know what the skills are that they need to have, let me just rather manage them to be more effective and productive, rather than really talking to them and finding out what do they want to develop, how do they want their career to grow.
Exactly, and even further, like you say now, we're not just talking about their current role or their next role in the company. I'm saying their career. What is their vision for where they want to go in their career, and why is it important to you? What would you benefit as a manager, and what would the company benefit if you talk about their career development? And that's sort of a fear. I mean, Jane, you come from the recruitment perspective. People's like, oh, aren't I going to lose people? Am I going to lose people? Yeah. But what we have found is that the opposite is true. So if a manager shows a genuine interest in people, they become more loyal. And their skills and their dreams that is developed by you and the company benefit you and the company. So now there is instances, and we'll get to that a little bit later, where maybe there's a different approach. But first of all, if I feel like, if I work for you, Jane, and you say to me, listen, Reinhard, you've worked for me for 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, and I know sort of, but what's your dream for your career? Not just working at OtterBox. Geez, that would be so special that you asked me that question. And it might be scary, because maybe my dream is to, I don't know, not work as a coach, and I want to, open a restaurant or be a baker, or what if that's my, but if you create a space where I can even say that, that would be in a sense amazing, so
I think
what
people feel safe then. They
totally.
feel that they can bring their true self to work.
Yeah, and it's not an opportunity where it's like people can start moaning now about their job and the company. That's not the space. It's listen, what's your dreams? And say, I now say, hey, Jen, I actually want to open my own bakery down in the waterfront in Cape Town. I always had this dream, and my uncle in Germany was a baker, and wouldn't it be awesome? And if you responded, what, but you're doing such a great job in this, why would you? Then I would obviously shut down, but you wouldn't. If you say, wow, that's so interesting. And when do you want to do that, and how? And, because it is my dream. Now, it's not my dream, but let's just say it was my dream. And now you say, oh, great. So I know currently you're doing this. When did you think of the transition? And, how can we help? If that's your dream, and geez, now that would be such a different conversation. Now, it could be like, hey, I want your job, so as the manager, which is also okay. It doesn't mean that they have to change their job, but yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're talking about a coaching approach is one where you respond with curiosity and where you are real and genuine and having a human interaction with that person, and not just making them feel like you're only interested in their productivity here and now. So when there's that human and that personal connection and that interest, that makes a difference. And I think I actually saw this the other day. I was having coffee with a friend on Tuesday this week, and she has a scarce skill and she does really well in her work, but she is one of those people who tends to move every 1 or 2 years. So it's very hard for organizations to hold on to her. And she's one of those people that if she leaves, she'll always find something else. So we were talking about her work and how it's going. And she said, you know what? I just think that right now I've been there 1 or 2 years, but if I was to move somewhere else, I would be crazy. Because can you believe it? My manager sat down with me the other day and he said, what do you want to do with your career? Where do you want to go? How do you want to grow? And let me help you. If you want to move into Exco, let's work on that career path. If you want to specialize, she's in data analytics, let's work on that career path. And I will help you, and I will get you a coach, and we'll give you the training that you need. But because she found that her manager was interested in her own career development and what was important to her, she feels like I would be crazy to move. So she now gives her best at work because of her manager's coaching approach towards her. And she does actually have an external coach. And the coach was saying to her, wow, I haven't heard of many managers who treat their employees like that. This is amazing. But it just showed me how different it is to have that approach than when somebody is just kind of coming down hard on somebody, trying to just get them to perform.
No, so true. And and I think you spoke about this person gave them external coaches, but also internally. So I just had a conversation with a client an hour ago. So how do you, and he actually wants to hand over, so he's starting to go into the retirement age, and he's a senior manager. And so how does other people need to? So we talked about letting go equals developing people below you, because somebody needs to actually do what you do, right? And so we set out, so how do you do this? So if it's their career thing, it's, you say, okay, well, great. So where you at? So this is your vision and your dream. Great. Let's work on that. So let's say for now, we've covered like, okay, I wanted to be in a bakery, but that's 5 years from now. For now, I just want to work for Out of Box Thinking. But hey, there's certain skills that I can learn now at Out of Box Thinking that might even help me one day when I want to start my bakery. So what is the skills and knowledge and expertise I need for my career development that's also relevant right now? Because if I want to start a bakery and you sent me in a bakery course, obviously there will be no benefit to out-of-box thinking, yeah?
Right.
But there could be a hybrid. There could be a hybrid and say, okay, well, you work at out-of-box thinking, but what can we also add? And what's the things? What do you want to develop? And so you and this is sort of when we talk about a how. In companies, we have performance appraisals, right? Some companies do it once a year, some companies do it twice a year, and we score people. And unfortunately, it has a lot to do with promotion and bonuses and pay raises and everything else, and often very little to do with development, yeah, which is interesting. But I'm not. Maybe T-Systems is totally different, but I have found for most companies globally, sadly, it's not, so and this is where you as a coach manager comes in and say, okay, well, great. So what's the skills that you want to develop for your vision that's aligned also with your job? To then say, okay, this is the skills and knowledge you need. Score them. Where are you at? Let's say a skill I need to develop is time management. My projects is, all over the space. I'm brilliant at it, but, time management would be great for me as a baker too, but time management would be brilliant here anyway, So where do I score at it? What do I need to get myself better? So maybe there's an external cause, but also there's internal application where I would grow. So let's say out of 10, I score 5. So you have a manager, have a coaching conversation with me only once a month. Doesn't have to be more than 15 minutes or 20 minutes, but it's not a performance appraisal. It's something totally different. Where that conversation is not on the projects I do. It's on me and my development. And you help me track this, because the better I become, the better my projects become, right? I mean, I'm doing my projects, I'm doing my work. So the better I become, the better the delivery and productivity becomes. But that takes a little time that's dedicated every month specifically on the people. And you work out a little small development plan that's very different from what HR has. Sometimes they're aligned, but it's your responsibility. It's not HR's. Does that make sense, Jen?
Yeah, so it sounds like an active involvement, and it sounds like an ongoing career growth conversation rather than monitoring performance. Exactly. And it sounds like it's aligned to the interests of the person, and it's more coaching approach. So it's asking more questions. It's more about reflection than just telling someone what to do to get the job done. And in the scenarios we've discussed now, it actually ends up in benefiting the organization, because the person who is working in the organization now feels that they are important, who they are, what they want is important. The more they thrive, the more productive they are. But Reinhard, just coming back to this bakery example, I think sometimes there is a concern, and maybe it's even reality, that if I help you develop in a certain area, it's actually counterproductive, because it doesn't help you succeed in your current role, because what you want and where you are right now is quite different. So it's almost, it feels a little unethical maybe for me to be investing as a manager in helping you grow in a direction that is not aligned to where the organization needs you to be. So how does that influence?
No, it's a very good question. So obviously you cannot send me in a bakery course. I mean, it's not going to work.
Sure, yeah.
That would be counterproductive, unethical, and dumb, but I have a greater vision where my career goes. There's some skills that overlap, and we can agree, and we have a trust relationship, that you can help me work on those skills because they would fit my current job as well. Very much so. They must fit my current job. So they can't just fit my current job a little bit. They need to really fit my current job, you know. But a lot of these skills are non-technical skills. Most of us and the people who work for us, technically they should be sound in what they do. Otherwise, why would you employ them? You know, so a lot of the skills is management skills, self-management, time management, conflict management, projects. How you get better at those things are non-technical, and they are very much universal in different things, you know, areas. So you make an agreement with me that I need to, these are the skills that I currently develop. If you don't do it, I'll look for the first opportunity where I can go somewhere else anyway.
No, that's true. And I think a lot of the future of work skills have been identified as what typically used to get called soft skills, but they're not referred to as soft skills anymore, more attributes or competencies or future of work skills like flexibility and agility. So those are the things that people need to be good at, as you say, regardless of the role they're in. And I also hear you talking about trust. And I also hear you talking about having conversations where you agree on what is mutually beneficial. And I like that openness and I like that transparency. And even though the world may seem big, I see Elpida has made a comment in the chat saying the funny thing is that you have here a small round of colleagues, none of whom belong to T-Systems, and we all know each other in a way. But sometimes we have more in common than we think. And there's more connection than we expect. And I think if we can collaborate and have each other's backs and help each other move forward, then the greater whole moves forward as well. But Reinhard, there's another question that I think comes up, and that is the almost, I don't know how else to describe it other than a type of selfishness, if you like, of here I am upskilling you, helping you to be more productive and to grow. And I'm doing all this so that you will leave me and I will have to replace you. And I know even managers who work in organizations that I work with, they say it's very difficult for them sometimes because they feel almost like the incubator for the organization. They are the ones who bring people in and train them up. And then as soon as they have some good skills, they move on. But yeah, how does this coaching approach and this principle fit in with that?
So I think that's where the trust comes in again, you know. So if you invest in people, you know, and they see the value in you and your company, they will stay, right? Some will get an even better job, you know, and they'll move. But that's okay because they will appreciate what you give them. So where they go in the world, if their experience with you was brilliant, they will always say, you know, from Otterbox, I went here or there or wherever, but man, that was a great manager. Jane, I worked for her. Yes, you know, I would recommend anybody to work for whoever, you know. And it comes back to you, you know. So the thing is, if people leave, they want to leave anyway, and then you'll have to replace them. So that thinking is, I know that thinking is out there with some managers, but the opposite is proven time and again. If people are skilled and they get a better offer, they're going to leave anyway. So.
No, that's true. And I think what you're saying relates to what we see so often in the marketplace, which is the concept of branding. And how people brand people and organizations based on their experience with them. And often it's their emotional experience with them. So your engagement with someone, your approach to helping them grow their career really impacts on your organization's brand, because maybe they leave, but through their network, they help you find somebody really good to replace them, or there's a mutually beneficial move or synergy that happens down the line. You know, you never know.
I mean, I'm thinking of our friends and he's like 30, and so he worked for a big investment company in South Africa, but also they're worldwide, they're in the Bahamas, and this is what happened with him, you know, brilliant guy. In South Africa, we have affirmative action, so let's just call it what it is. You have the right type of candidate. And now they show interest, he showed interest to leave. Instead of trying to hold on to him, they made it so easy. And, it's like, how can we help? Da, 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 da. Gave him a great review. He worked for that other company for 2 years, but I kept checking in with him. How is he generally? In 2 years' time, he said, geez, there was another opportunity to come. They loved him. He was so keen to go back. Not because the other company was terrible, but because how his company invested him in the first place, and he's now working with him again.
No, that's true. I mean, I know the person you're referring to, and I think his current organization benefits from his skills even more now, because he's gone and grown and developed his skills and experience outside of the organization. But it was such a positive experience working for that organization, and the way that they treated his career growth and his opportunity to have something new means that he comes back and he is of greater value even than he was before. So I actually spoke to somebody else the other day who worked for the same organization, and she also left them to further her career. And she was also saying, but I think I actually might go back there someday. So they do a good job like that. But Reinhard, I don't have any other questions for you from my side. So I don't know if you want to open it up to everyone else to make comments and ask questions, or if there's anything else you want to add before we do that.
No, I think that's it. Let's open the floor.